amateurluxurysportingcanada.org, and I'm here with a face who's definitely more familiar than a lot of the people that we do interviews with. It is Apollo, of course. Right, so I'm going to jump straight in the deep end. Have you been enjoying your time here at this event this time around?
This time around is a good part of that question, because this time around I've just come off many events in a row. So it's like my fourth or third event in a row every weekend. So this time around it is a lot more tiring than it would be usually, especially because on day one all of a sudden I just got sick. I lost my voice, and it's all added up together. So this time around it's been more difficult, but it's just as fun as it is usually.
Okay. A lot of people probably don't know too much about how, I mean, they probably think you've got a sweet job, right? Because you get to travel the world, you commentate on games, and people would think that that's not very difficult. But can you talk a little bit about how much of a toll it does actually take?
So it's a lot of effort. Yeah, you actually have to be fit. Fit's actually something that I'm working on recently, because it is tolling. You do 12 hours a day, especially at DreamHack. 12 hours a day for 3 days in a row. Can be more than that sometimes. You sleep very minimal, and you have to keep the energy high 12 hours a day, speak all day, and the amount a commentator speaks on average per day is like so much higher than anybody else in any other job. So it's very, very difficult, but at the same time it's an ideal job. I would never complain about my job. And then the other side of it, traveling. A lot of people say, oh, it must be great traveling the world, you got to see everything, right? Well, in reality, you don't actually see anything, because you fly in the night before the tournament starts, you're so tired, you just want to go back to the hotel and sleep. You have to get up early to do a day's work, you go back and sleep, and on the last night you go out for a couple of beers, and in the morning you got to go on a plane and go somewhere else. So you don't get to see too much, but it is a pleasure to do it. It's a beautiful job. It's casting a game and being in esports, which everybody wants to do, and we are lucky to do that.
Okay. So you're the new anchor on State of the Game. Well, I guess I'll ask you first. What have you made of the show so far, and kind of how it's been with you in that new role?
Yeah, the show's good. I enjoy it. It's just speaking about what I love anyway. There's a lot of, I don't like to get into too much of the drama situations, because that's kind of not me. I'm just like, all right, well, you know, that's kind of drama, but more specifically about the game, the development of the game, you know, no pun, the state of the game and how it's actually working out is great. It's good because I have an opinion on it. You know, it's what I do all day, every day. It's my job, so it's good to be able to voice that out there.
It's kind of received, the new format, I feel like it's kind of received some mixed feedback, although it has been getting a lot of viewers. In terms of which one you gauge as a measure of success, which one is more important? Would you rather have everyone who watched it saying how great it was, or would you rather just have big numbers?
I prefer the great. Numbers will come if it's great, so you don't need to go to one end without the other, because if you start at the beginning you'll get to the end. For example, anything, if you're good at what you do, you'll get success eventually. You don't look for the success without being good. So for me it's definitely about just producing, or for me on my show, of course, it's JP's show, that he's the one that has to make sure it's good. On my side of things, I'll do everything that's required to make sure that the show is good, and that my part on the show makes it worth people watching.
You were out obviously in China, and from the kind of perspective of watching it at home, it seemed to be there was a lot of problems. It looked to be kind of shambolic at times. No fault of your own, but just that's how it came across. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what the issues were, and why things weren't going so smooth for such a prestigious event?
So the production team was Chinese. There was a Chinese team that didn't speak that much English. Okay. Blizzard hired a Chinese company to do the production. It was the same company that did the WCS Asia, and that they were just looking for improvements from the WCS Asia one to the grand finals. The problems is that the team was the team was good. If everything was running good and the complete setup was down, they know how to do and run a show. But if there's problems, they didn't know how to fix them. That was the big problem. And there were a lot of problems starting, you know, microphones, audio, just everything didn't work, and it took a while for them to fix it. Eventually, after, you know, halfway through day one, towards the end, it did start to run a lot smoother. But initially, with those mistakes there, it was shaky, and you know, it was difficult for us commentators too to work under those conditions. But we all pulled through, and eventually, you know, it turned out okay.
What about the streaming numbers? Because I mean, I think people were disappointed with kind of how that turned out. And it's kind of a two-part question. First of all, can you point to the specific reasons as to why maybe they were low?
All right, so any event held in Asia at that time is always going to struggle with numbers, because it's difficult. For example, it started at maybe 3 AM European time. The European zone probably offers at prime time a good 30,000 viewers on concurrent time. right now, you know, DreamHack is held at a perfect time for European viewers. They get in big numbers. For the Asia ones, it started at 3 a.m. and in America it started at like 9 p.m. So it's a really difficult zone, and especially the Asia, a lot of the demographics and all the stats you look at, viewership numbers from YouTube, from live streaming, it's specifically Europe and America as the big numbers that bring in. So at the time they held it, it's great for Asia, but Asia isn't the numbers that you get on an English stream. So I think that was the main difficulty, and then combined with the streaming issues that people had, or not really the streaming issues, but the technical difficulties with the tournament, added together was probably the two big reasons.
And just to kind of feed it into the whole drama thing, which is what the StarCraft 2 community like, do you think that means that there's a little bit of truth now in the whole, you know, the game is dying thing? Because that was the World Championships, that was the big event, and the numbers were low, for perhaps for the reasons that you've dictated, but, you know, are you starting to believe that maybe there is a problem there?
All right, well, I'm just going to, you know, flat out say that I disagree that the game is dying per se, because if you look at the European finals, good production, good casting team, good players, the show was amazing that DreamHack put on, you're looking at 100,000 concurrent on one stream. You know, that's a good number. On multiple streams, it's gone up to like 120, 130, if, you know, estimate roughly. This event is doing well every day. The day 1 and 2 and leading into day 3, the numbers have been roughly 45,000 concurrent on all streams. And leading to the finals, I think we're going to hit big numbers today. So I think the main reasons, as mentioned before, was the reasons why we didn't see BWC. Not so much that it was meant to be the prestigious tournament of the year. Sure, it was meant to be. It didn't live up to expectations, as a lot of people wanted that to succeed. It didn't succeed as well as planned, so I wouldn't look at that tournament specifically and then compare it to the game is dying.
Okay. So last two questions. First one is, how much do you think Heart of the Swarm is actually going to rejuvenate the current scene? Are we going to see a sudden rise again in the numbers, do you think, or do you think it will plateau and stay pretty much where it is?
I think it will have a massive surge, especially with the new changes with the Battle.net that Blizzard have been putting in. For example, YouTube numbers. They started really high, they went down, and then with the new changes that got implemented, it shot back up again. And I think that's going to happen as soon as the game comes out. Numbers will be high, people will have a new refreshed interest in the game, they'll want to see new styles, new strategies, because the game right now is in a state where players that want to just watch for fun rather than players that are into the game, it's always the same. It's very similar right now. The game has been very well mapped out, and you only witness the beauty if you understand the game. And the big numbers usually come from people that want to casually watch, and I think that's where the big numbers are going to come when Heart of the Swarm comes out. So I think it's going to shoot back up, to answer the question directly, eventually get there. The numbers will be high, and then they will drift down again eventually, and depending on the success of the game, they will, you know, go down faster, go higher, stay at a level, but it will have a decrease eventually after a couple of months.
And just a final question, because people always criticise me for not asking more kind of analytical or game-related questions, because I don't really know a lot about it. I certainly don't play it. But there's been some changes made recently, you know, the whole Raven Infestor thing, everyone's talking about it, so I wanted to just pick your brains about it on camera.
So the Raven Infestor, so I guess the big thing is the Infestor, I guess. So the Infestor is a problem, it needs to be adjusted, everybody knows it, though. I think when, basically the underlying story is when you have two leveled players playing against each other. For example, if we were to grab Tasia and just clone him with all his skills, all his attributes, and make him play Zerg, the Zerg player would have an advantage if they were two identical skills. In a lot of tournament scenes, Zerg do lose still, but that's usually because the other player played better. But going into an equal level playing field, the Zerg player does have an advantage because of the Infestors. It's something that Blizzard are actively looking at, that do want to change it. Because of the tournament circuit that is so heavy right now, they haven't done anything to change it, but I think they will soon. I definitely think they will.
Well, look, get well soon. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I know you've still got lots to do, but try and enjoy it as best as you can while you're soldiering on. And a pleasure to talk to you. To all the people out there at Carat.org, do stay tuned to the website. We're going to have more interviews like this one from here at DreamHack Winter 2012.